Joining me right now to weigh in, House Commerce Committee member, Congressman Chris Collins of New York. Congressman, it's good to see you. Thanks so much for weighing in.
Always good to be here, Maria.
Wow, your reaction to this historic summit?
Well, it is historic, and when you think back 65 years, the number of presidents who have served and been frustrated endlessly by the conflict in Korea as North Korea looked to build up a nuclear arsenal, putting certainly Japan and parts of the U.S. at risk. To me, this is another accomplishment, frankly, for President Trump. The accomplishments keep mounting 14, 15 months into his administration, whether it was moving our embassy to Jerusalem, where, we hear very little about that, which 6 presidents promised to do. Only Trump did. And to think now that we could have peace on the Korean Peninsula with no nuclear weapons whatsoever, that is beyond historic. And certainly it's going to be tougher and tougher for these Democrats to continue, even though they're going to try to paint Trump in the light that they have, not suited to be president when we have tax reform. We've got a historic Supreme Court, Jerusalem, and now North Korea. They just keep piling up the successes in just 14 months. Imagine what he'll accomplish over 4 years.
So I feel like the president has been working toward this since he started in office, talking with the president of China while they're having dinner, telling the president of China we just struck Syria, just to show how serious he has been, telling, China, we're going to get tough. You need to help us with North Korea, being really tough in terms of his rhetoric with the head of North Korea. But why now? I mean, we know what went on with Otto Warmbier. You've got Otto Warmbier's parents now suing North Korea because their son obviously came back comatose and then died from North Korea. Why is Kim Jong-un doing this now?
Well, when you look at, the rhetoric and the back and forth, this is the art of the deal with President Trump, who sets the stage. People know he is not someone who bluffs. He knows what it takes to get through a negotiation in his gut. This is, yes, he gets advice from other people, but at the end of it, this is Donald Trump in his gut, knowing where he's got to go to get results. And people who haven't been in those types of negotiations can't understand the back and forth. But there is actually a method to what he's doing. And sure enough, Kim Jong-un took note. And Kim Jong-un wants to wake up in the morning. And he said, with President Trump, if he continues down the nuclear path,
right,
there could be the day he doesn't wake up in the morning.
And we know that this dramatic summit is coming just a few weeks before Kim is due to meet with President Trump to talk about denuclearization. Here's what President Trump had to say about that yesterday. Listen to this, Congressman.
Everybody said, this guy's going to get us into nuclear war. Let me tell you, the nuclear war would have happened if you had weak people. We had weak people. This should have been settled long before I came into office. This is a much different ballgame than if they did it 5 or 10 or 20 years ago. This is a much more dangerous ballgame now. But I will tell you, it's going very well.
So your expectations for this meeting in May that the president's planning on having with Kim Jong-un?
Well, I think we have a real chance, especially with the announcement that South and North Korea are going to sign a peace deal or have agreed to do it. This could actually end the nuclear weapons program in the North, denuclearize the peninsula. And economically, this is what Kim Jong-un needs. I mean, his country is in dire, dire, dire straits. The people there, their life expectancy, their health. This is a chance for Kim Jong-un, frankly, to become a hero in his country, to get them moving forward economically and things that we take for granted in the U.S., whether it's antibiotics and other health treatments that are simply not available in the North. Our sanctions have worked. And I have a feeling that China right now, which, is another issue for us, is looking at this and thinking, uh-oh, our influence in this area is going to be greatly diminished. What does this mean for China? The largest, most populated country in the world. I don't know how that's going to play out on the trade front. But let's face it, President Trump, he's got balls in the air in every which way, and he's handling it extremely well, whether it's on the trade issue or now this. He's just looking every day to accomplish more.
Well, we'll see if the mainstream media and the left admits, because this is obviously, this is very clear what has taken place here, and the president's approach to this is obviously working and has worked. I want to turn to domestic issues, and that is taxes, specifically the impact of that elimination of the state and local tax deduction. and the impact you're seeing. In a recent op-ed in the Journal, Art Laffer and Stephen Moore write in part this: in the years to come, millions of people, thousands of businesses, and tens of billions of dollars of net income will flee high-tax blue states for low-tax red states. Congressman, we've been talking about a potential exodus, people leaving New York, because they've lost that deduction. Are you seeing that take place?
Well, Maria, people have been leaving New York for the last 50 years, regardless of that. We used to have 45 members of Congress. We now have 27, and we're going to lose another one. So they have been fleeing New York as the highest taxed, most regulated, least business-friendly state in the nation for 50 years. That exodus continues, unfortunately. It is strictly self-inflicted with our high taxes. In the case of not being able to deduct the state and local taxes, that only impacts the extraordinarily wealthy individuals in New York. And,
well, you don't want the money people to leave, though, right? I mean, you.
Well, that's when you've got a $160 billion budget and the upper incomers pay a big piece of that. That's where our governor and the folks in Albany need to get our house in order, much like Florida. I always laugh in the winter. They not only have 82-degree weather, they have no estate tax or income tax.
I know it. That's incredible. No wonder people are moving to Florida. Let me ask you about moving to the U.S., because the immigration story is getting a little scary. This caravan bringing migrants from Central America seeking asylum has arrived in the U.S.-Mexico border. Your take on that caravan coming to the U.S. and the implications?
Well, I think it's proper if the U.S. turns that back. We still.
But what about catch and release? If you step foot in the U.S., we can't even send you back. We've got to catch and release.
Well, that's something that's got to end. We've all known that. We have to secure the border. That discussion continues. For whatever reason, the Democrats, I think it's strictly for political gain, keep playing hardball on that. They did it on the omnibus. We're making some progress. But right now, immigration, if the Democrats wanted a deal, there's a deal to be had. But for them, this is a political hot potato issue. Trump or Obama could have solved this in 2009 with 60 senators, Democrat senators. He chose to do DACA in 2012, pandering to Hispanic voters 3 months before the election. Frankly, Maria, the Democrats don't want a solution here because this is a political soundbite that they believe works for them in elections. Everything is about their elections. I just wish they would come to the table in a sincere way to talk about getting immigration policy. My dairy farmers need it. The DACA kids, the dreamers, deserve something. But the Democrats, frankly, don't want a solution here.
It's very disheartening that everything leads to politics. You know, they wanted a DACA deal. The president gave them better than what they even asked for, and then it's radio silence. So they want this DACA deal to go right before the midterm elections, and then you've got the North Korea situation where we see incredible progress. We think we believe it, that, you know, they're going to have a peace deal here. Will voters hold the Democrats to account come November with the midterm elections? Will they remember all of the obstructionism and the slow walking of nominees and the obstructionism to try to delegitimize this president?
Well, Maria, I really think they do. And when you have something as historic as moving, the embassy in Jerusalem or now North Korea, it's going to be impossible for the voters to look at Trump and hence the Republicans in any way but a party that gets things done, is making this a better world for our children, our grandchildren, generations not yet born, a safer world. And he's going to continue to hit on the trade issue, bringing jobs back. And we're already seeing other countries for the first time saying, oh, we got to deal with our tariffs as well.
Right.
So
we'll see.
It's progress, progress, and progress.
Chris, thank you so much.